Chapter 76. Love and Longing. I think you're the only sorcerer to ever be disappointed in how powerful sorcery is. Brynchar notes as Vernon waits with Miro Noir for the next round. The time between them is growing shorter and shorter. At most, between the next round and the last one will be a half hour of time. It helps to turn the last few rounds into as much an endurance test as one of forging skill, power, and control. Well, I'm here to test myself. There is no test with sorcery. The whole style is designed to attack the strengths of an Apuk warrior and leave them helpless. Bringing in sorcery is... I'm glad I used it in the quarterfinals and not in the finals, as just straight up winning the top spot wouldn't be good. I think I'll need to consider this a human thing. So many men competing with each other puts the need to excel in your gut. Brynchar notes and Vernon shrugs. Oh, probably. Hello? Vernon begins to answer before a young Apuk followed by a floating tray runs in. Fan gifts, Mr. Sorcerer. Sorcerer, sir, she says nervously. It's all right, kid. We don't bite, Vernon remarks. Unless you'd prefer it, Brynchar adds, and Vernon shoots him a shocked look as the delivery girl blushes neon. No. Communicator here, please? She asks, holding out a data slate for Vernon, who chuckles and taps his communicator to it. Calm down, young lady. The cretin was just being a tease. Vernon remarks kindly, and she nods before rushing off before he can continue. He gives Miro Noir a sideways look with a smile. It's astounding that I'd get fan mail and gifts, however. I honestly don't see myself as the type worthy of such. That's some more culture clash. Men get a lot of attention outside your hell pit portion of the galaxy, and here on Serbo, a fair amount more, especially warrior sorcerer men. Almost unheard of. You and your wife have walked from the pages of fantasy novels and little girls' deepest dreams. Brynchar notes as he stands up and regards the gifts. Some sweets, a few drinks, what looks to be several pairs of already worn underthings, and what appears to be an entire stack of poetry and formally written propositions half buried under a small mountain of flowers, formally grown and freshly picked from the wilds alike. Brynchar notes with a wide smile and a clear laugh in his voice. Nice to know my husband is so well regarded. Miro Noir notes as she quickly gathers up the propositions and poetry. I'll handle these, though perhaps we could share a drink, she asks. I'd love to. These are all sent without a name attached? The secret soiree society? Vernon notes as he looks at a little signature scribbled onto the side with marker. I know them. I'm a partial owner of the local branch, in fact. It's actually a business conglomeration. They have branches on hundreds of worlds. Basically, you pay them to deliver things for you and they keep no records. It's part of the contract. All hush-hush, all secret. They also buy things if you supply them the money and pay the fees. I'll wager that each of these came from a different woman, Brynchar explains, and Vernon nods amicably. They're normally used just like this to send propositions to men and feel out their reactions without possibly spoiling a friendship, Miro Noir says, and Vernon nods before taking off the top from the drink and giving it a sniff. He raises an eyebrow at the smell. Sweet, but there's something familiar in this, he says before taking a sip. Almonds? He asks before he pauses. Brynchar, do you have a bioscanner? What? Wait, what's an almond? The sorcerer asks in suspicion. A type of seed that's widely eaten back home, but before selected breeding the trees it grew from had to be modified to drain away the poison. Vernon says slowly, and Miro Noir gasps as she takes the drink away from Vernon. Brynchar pulls out a scanner and runs it. Trelane extract. Not lethal, but enough to leave someone in agony for hours after just a taste, Brynchar says, and Vernon's eyebrow goes up. Is it dangerous for humans? He asks, and Brynchar turns the scanner on him. After a few moments, his eyebrows go up. "Are you aware you have a sack of high-grade acid among your internal organs?" he asks. "That's the stomach," Vernon replies. "Oh, well, the Trelline isn't getting past it. You have traces in your mouth and throat, but it's being destroyed by the acid in your gut," Brinchar says. "This is very serious. There's already been some anonymous complaints about non-Apuk being allowed into the tournament and requests that you be disqualified for using a weapon or using time manipulation or sorcery against your foes for leaving them helpless." "Zion Hute?" Miro Noir asks with a hiss. "It's possible. Everything has been done anonymously. We can't throw blame, though. A few attempts like this are a sign of desperation. Someone wants you out of the tournament, that much is clear, but nothing solid on who, and we need solid information on the who, otherwise we can't prosecute. There have been misblamed champions in the past, and it's led to a system where proof is desperately needed. I suppose the best revenge is to tear them apart without cheating as well," Vernon remarks. "Still, for all the talk about doing things honorably, we now have to put up with this nonsense. Hypocrisy is rampant no matter the race." Vernon remarks as he cracks his neck and back before rolling his shoulders and frowns. "I'm sure whoever sent the Trelline is going to be very disappointed that all they did was encourage you," Brinchar says, and Vernon nods. "Just be careful if they're willing to do this to get one over on you. Then there's no way to tell exactly how far they're willing to go against both dignity and honor to win." Miro Noir warns him, and he cuddles up close. "You'd be getting a kiss if I didn't have that Trelline on my lips," he says, hugging her. "Speaking of, I think I might be able to figure out who sent it. It likely won't count as proof, but it will help us figure things out," Vernon says before taking the spiked drink from Miro Noir. "Keep the scanner on. I know how to nullify this," he says before sticking his finger into the drink, and after a few moments of consideration he takes it out. "Scan, please." Trelline extract is in trace amounts at most. The little amounts sticking to the side are all there is. Not even enough left to give a child more than a slightly upset stomach, Brinchar confirms. "That is such a useful skill." "I know, right? Cheers," Vernon says before drinking down the gift to the halfway point. "Vernon, really?" Miro Noir chides him. "I can honestly say I drank a large amount of it, so when there's a smug smirk or open confusion when this becomes known, we'll have a good idea who it is, or confirmation as it's likely Zion Hute," he says. "Regardless, drinking from a tainted glass is bad enough. Dear goodness, how is it that you're more reckless off the arena than upon it? What if there was some kind of capsule in the middle designed to dissolve in contact with the air and then add another kind of poison?" she asks, and Vernon blinks at the idea before considering, thinking, and then looking toward Brinchar. "Is that even possible?" "Technically, but a bioscanner can catch those," Brinchar remarks. "Well, regardless, I can safely say I drank it. Enough for a dangerous dose, and I'm going to win the next round, and if the cheater makes it into the finals, I'll do what I can to expose them. Just focus on not getting hurt. The last 2 rounds of a shellcracker tournament are generally extremely dangerous whether there's honor in the ring or not," Miro Noir says before kissing him on the forehead. "Now, get out there and show them that underhanded tactics are the sign of a coward." "Yes, my love," Vernon says. "Don't you worry. This round more than any other is going to be myself at my most elusive." He promises before leaning in to hold his forehead against hers for a moment. "Remember your promise. If it turns against you, give them everything. A time-commanding sorcerer who can conjure weapons at will. I think that would be a bit much for nearly anyone to handle," he says before hugging her again. "The next round is about to start. I think it would be wise for you to go," Brinchar says, and Vernon nods, then vanishes. "Quick, isn't he?" Brinchar notes. The arena erupts into cheers as just as the match ends, Vernon is already in place and ready for the next round. The losers are helped out, and the winner, Zion Hute, gives him a deep glare as she stalks out of the arena and into the back. He offers her a smirk. "Best of luck next round," Vernon says, and she growls. He makes a note at just how badly hurt the losers are. One is being wheeled out on a floating gurney and two have broken arms. One is missing a horn and the last one is holding her tail with tears in her eyes. Zion Hute fights mean. To pass the time, he regards the images for the contestants on the screen. He's of course there with his palm on the glowing tree. There's another with her fists engulfed in green flame holding the shell of her opponent, with opponent still in it over her head and clearly crushing it with a gleeful smile. Another is making a kick that seems to defy biological mechanics as she gets an opponent holding her from behind in the top of the head. The next has the image of an Apuk standing beside herself and the opponent hitting the illusionary Apuk and getting her shell shattered as she does so. The next is sending her opponent flying with an uppercut, and the last is slamming hers into the arena floor like a rag doll. Soon enough they rush out, and as Vernon is focused on the fact he was nearly poisoned, he's not really listening to Goyita's commentary. He gives a little wave when he hears his name, and there's a remark that he's taking this deadly seriously, which is fair. But he waits for that single indication, his mind clear, his plan formed, and his will razor sharp. The match begins and all of space shifts. He's instantly gone and behind an opponent, a look of manic focus on his face as he makes a quick gesture. Reality ripples and her shell falls apart. Before she can react, he's simply gone again to deliver a kick to the shell of the opponent opposite of her. The sheer force of the blow craters the shell and inverts its shape from the sheer force. The poor, unsuspecting warrior is launched across the arena with her armor reduced to shrapnel. The next one is onto him and spins to expel an enormous concussive wave of blue fire tinged with green directly at him as he appears behind her. But he's already prepared. He warps space so that the fire is redirected to engulf the next opponent from within her shell. It erupts, and the sheer shock of what happened shocks the fire breather just enough to disrupt the enormous cascade of flame and offers all the time Vernon needs to make a circular gesture to warp the space in and around her shell to slice it with portals and leave it in pieces around the arena. Then he's gone, still with a look of utter focus on his face, to reappear near his last opponent who braces herself. He warps again to dodge a brutally fast swing as if reality suddenly had a glitch. Two follow-up punches are dodged by him, blinking around like in a warping, stuttering pattern as if he's some kind of illusion. But they're followed by a leg sweep that finds him solid and takes him off the ground. A savage punch sends him flying, but space itself warps under his will, and he turns it into a boosted flying shoulder tackle into her shell, which buckles the armor, but doesn't break it. This one is very well made. She then vanishes in her own teleport, and he simply follows her through and shifts his exit point ever so, allowing him the space to finish his destruction of her shell with a brutal mid-air kick. It's over. It's done. Next round, he'll show that poisoning bitch exactly what you get for trying something so low down and dirty after preaching about. Where did that come from? His last opponent asks him in shock and pulling him out of his dark and angry thoughts. Last round, the woods did all the work. It wasn't fair, so this round I put in twice as much effort to make up for it. He lies while forcing down the anger but not letting it go. So you're saying that using sorcery was unfair? You, the sorcerer, saying sorcery is unfair? She demands, and he shrugs. It's too powerful. This tournament is a test of the contestant's strength, not the strength of the woods. Sorcery is about bringing in the woods to augment one's strength. It was a distinctly unfair move. Well, that's that, isn't it, girls? Our sorceress contender is reluctant to use his most powerful trick. Too strong, he calls it. Unfair, he thinks his sorcery is. What a contestant. What a competition. This is the second fastest round, beaten out only by his own record of less than 2 seconds. Thank you. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'll be getting out of everyone's way, Vernon remarks before vanishing back to Miro Noir's side in another teleport.